Good, good, good. Do me a favor. Come on, let's move forward. Let's move forward. Guys, if you're still streaming in, you can move forward if you want, guys. If you're still streaming in, let's find our seats. We're going to get started here in just a minute. Thank you for being patient with us. Beautiful, beautiful. Come on in. Come on in. Feel free to, yep, you're good. Beautiful. Who's been having a good weekend so far? In the seats, not to the stands. Don't push no kid, sir. I see you put, ooh, if you push a kid again in the bucket hat, I'll just give you a hard time. I know you didn't push nobody. All right, who's having a good weekend so far? Make some noise. All right, who had a good weekend? My fault. Thanks for, yeah. You had a good weekend? Thanks, man. Beautiful, beautiful. Come on in, sit on down. Awesome. We got some football fans over here. Who we get to sign the football? A lot of people. Great answer. Who's your favorite person you got to sign it? Who? Oh, yeah, he's a good running back. What about football players, man? You got a football. Oh, what? Unbelievable. All right, guys. We're going to get started here in just a minute. Thank you so much for being patient. Fill on in. Fill the seats. All right, we got some incredible guests coming up, incredible panelists. If you're excited for them, make some noise. No. They're only going to come out here if they feel the right energy. So on the count of 3, we're going to make them feel welcome, all right? 1, 2. I thought I was going to sneeze. 3. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, if you're walking in the building now, just go ahead and find your seat. We're going to get started in just 1 second, okay, guys? Thanks for bearing with us. All right, who's ready to see our panelists? That's what I'm talking about. Our host that I'm going to bring to the stage right now, I don't know if she believed me or not, but this is how I said I'm going to introduce her. Not only is she one of the most well-spoken people I've ever met and one of the kindest I've ever met, because I met her over a year ago, and I haven't seen her since. And when I saw her in the backstage, she said, "It's so good to see you again." She is genuinely one of the most beautiful souls you will see. Y'all give it up for Taylor Rooks.
What a guy. How y'all doing? Now, I need more energy for this panel coming up. Give me more. How y'all doing? There we go. You all are in for a very fun and meaningful treat with this one. So I always tell people that I feel deeply blessed to cover the NBA and the WNBA because of the role that they play in driving change, in championing causes that they care about, and truly being leagues that understand equality. I was in the NBA bubble for 2 months, and I saw firsthand how those players wanted to tackle racial injustice. I remember where I was when the WNBA players helped flip a Senate seat, and I know how honored NBA players feel when they are up for the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Social Justice Change Award. Basketball, as we all know, is about more than just those wins and losses. It's really about how you want to help people. And the panel that you see today features 3 people who have decided to use their voices to truly champion change. And that is the championship that I know that we all care about. So I'm going to introduce them now. Star-studded panel. First up is NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. All right, next up, I know we gave Adam a big applause, but this one coming up, she just got a gold medal. Please give it up for for Sabrina Ionescu! Congratulations. All right, and our last panelist is a true legend and titan of the game, the one, the only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. All right, I promised you all stars, didn't I? All right, I am so excited for this Champions of Change panel, but I really want to begin big picture. We all know that basketball has gone global in a huge way. What is one example of that? And I'll start with you, Adam.
Well, first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here for this Fanatics Fan Fest. It's quite incredible. I remember, it seems like just a couple months ago, Michael Rubin came up with this concept, and he delivered on sort of this incredible opportunity. I'm a New Yorker and been to other events at the Javits Center, but this is really unique, and I don't think there's anything been like this for sports, so it's for all of you, so thank you for coming out for this. And I'll also say, for those who were in the room before we came on, following Jake Paul and Mike Tyson seems a little surreal, especially moving to social justice from whatever they were promoting. So
the face-off is coming, don't you worry, Adam.
Yeah, so whatever, but it's great to be here. And I would just say, appreciate covering this topic, Taylor. I know how important it is to the three of us. I think one thing most recently that comes to mind is the work that we're doing in Africa. You know, Kareem was a pioneer in so much of what we've done globally around outreach for the NBA. And as many of you probably know, in the middle of the pandemic, we created a league in Africa. I mean, it's such an enormous place. It's, 54 countries and well over 1 billion people. So you mentioned community, so it's sort of beyond, in a way, a single community, but it's a large community. It's a continent, and I think that, the game has become so global. And congratulations again on the gold medal you just won. We were in France together, but what Sabrina will tell you is the competition comes from everywhere now, and Africa is also a place that is producing so much great basketball, and we saw the opportunity there. And I'd say, I know this is what we're here to talk about, that through sports, and in our case basketball, it's an opportunity to create community and demonstrate, in a time when people seem very focused on our differences, to bring to light what makes us similar, the competitive spirit, these fundamental principles behind equality, behind the merit that comes from great competitors on the floor together. So that's just one example most recently for me.
Yeah, and Adam mentioned Olympics. Sabrina, when we talk about basketball going global, what really stuck out to you about that fact over there in Paris?
Yeah, well, first, hi everyone. But yeah, I would say I think being able to be across the country competing, like we played against 27,000 fans, and and that was all Belgium fans, right? Not necessarily USA fans, but I think we were able to see, for me, how an amazing opportunity that was for us to be able to bring kind of the WNBA, the best 12 players in the world, on this international stage and put together, obviously, a great performance, but being able to kind of interact with fans and see how many young girls there are, how many young boys they are that look up to us. They stay up late at night watching, wanting to be in the WNBA and wanting to play internationally, because there are leagues, there are this opportunity and vision of wanting to become us one day. And I think that was what really stood out to me out there, was being able to see how many fans there were, and kind of creating this opportunity for everyone to dream of becoming whatever it is that they want to do.
Definitely. And Kareem, I have heard you talk about basketball as an international language. How so?
Well, it's an international language because it's so popular worldwide. You can go to just about any country in the world and find a pickup game. And, 15, 20 years ago, that wasn't what it was all about. And I think that, that's personal. Diplomatically, look at what happened with ping pong, and it kind of made it possible for us to have a bridge with communist China when things were headed toward hostility. And, sports, again, ping pong, you wouldn't think so, but there it is.
Just think what you can do with a larger ball than ping pong.
But yeah, Kareem, to your point, we know basketball can spark real change. And Adam, basketball going global has been something that we have been talking about for years. I'm curious when you knew it had reached that, and what does it mean to truly be global?
Well, I started at the NBA. Again, Kareem, has been a pioneer of so many things that have happened around the NBA, social justice, but the global game as well. I'm late to the game and compared to Kareem, but I started at the NBA shortly before the Dream Team played in Barcelona in 1992. And I think that, at least in my time horizon, that was a true turning point, because there's a lot of young people here, but I'm sure enough people here remember the significance of that team, again, similar to Sabrina's WNBA All-Star team. This was, in essence, an NBA All-Star team that went to Barcelona, and for the first time, the Olympic Committee had agreed to allow so-called professional players to participate in the Olympics. And so here was this group of already pretty well-known global players. I mean, we didn't have social media, and the internet didn't exist then like it does today, where you could become so well-known globally just by virtue of people having phones. But it was the beginning of that era. But when those players showed up in Barcelona, and even though there wasn't a lot of competition, there was a much greater gap between the quality of the U.S. team when you include the pros and the other teams, that it was such an incredible attraction in Barcelona that, it's the thousands and thousands of fans just waiting outside the hotel to see the players. People just, were all over those players everywhere they went. And I think that was sort of the beginning too. It was kind of a little pre-internet, but satellite television had exploded everywhere, where you could reach so many tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people with that team. So I think coming out, and that's, as I said, my very early days in the league, and so much credit goes to my predecessor, David Stern, where he saw the opportunity using media to make this truly a global league. And just by way of example, my numbers may be slightly off, but in addition to our Olympic team, with the exception of Christian Laettner at the time, was all NBA players. I think in the entire Olympics, there may have been something like 9 other basketball players who had NBA experience. In this Olympics that Sabrina just participated in, we had roughly 140 NBA and WNBA players participating in the Olympics. So just look at that what's happened in those 32 years. I think so that vision that FIBA, our federation, had, and David Stern had, in truly globalizing the league, has come to fruition at the point now where In the NBA, we're getting close to 30% of the players in this league, including many of our all-stars, were born outside the United States. And I'm sure in the WNBA, I think it's just slightly lower, like 22 or 23% of the players in your league, Sabrina, were born outside the United States. So, as Kareem said, this is truly a global sport, and probably, soccer, known as football outside the United States, is #1 globally, but basketball is #2, but growing at a faster pace.
Sure. So just out of curiosity, show of hands, raise your hand if you've ever gone to an NBA game outside of the country. Anyone? Okay, a few. All right, raise your hand if your favorite NBA player or WNBA player is an international player. Okay. So there's a lot of growth there. That's great. Adam, you talked a lot about changes. And Kareem, I know through your time, you have seen a lot of changes. You've mentioned social media as a way that has shifted how athletes speak out for social issues and social justice. What have you seen there, and what's the biggest difference from when you were doing it and now?
Well, when I was doing it, it was TV and radio, period. Now we have the internet and all different types of ways to communicate. And that's made an incredible difference. The players now have an audience that is millions. And just that in one day you can communicate with millions of people. So the athletes, they have to be careful. They have to study what it is that they're advocating and have a passionate commitment to that. Because if they don't, people are going to look upon them as being ignorant and arrogant. And we can't have that. So for anyone that wants to communicate with that many people, know what you're talking about.
Know what you're talking about is right. Sabrina, how have you personally found your voice throughout your time in the league?
Well, I think it's changed, and it's evolved, obviously, like getting drafted, being a rookie, and then trying to figure it out, and figure out what it is that you want to stand for, and obviously being a part of a league of 144 other professional athletes that all kind of want different things, but then you're able to kind of come together. And I believe my first year, it being in a bubble actually was not the best, but I think being able to come together in a group where everyone, your competitors, teammates are all in one spot, and you're able to kind of talk through ideas. And I learned a lot in that first year in terms of just what the league standard for, what it is we were pushing, and how we were going to continue to try and fight for equality. But I would say particularly, I think, like being able to have a signature shoe now with Nike, and my first...
Yeah, round of applause.
And my first push, was wanting to have a unisex shoe that had never been done before, and really thankful that Nike was on board with that and wanted to create that change with me as well, and being able to see how that's kind of changed the game as well. I think 177 NBA players were in my shoe at one point last year, and I don't know if that would have happened, a little while ago, but I'm really glad to see that, and I know it's going to change the future for a lot of young girls that are growing up and able to see that and hope for one day to have a shoe as well because they're able to see that.
Now, Sabrina, I, like I'm sure many others in this room, loved watching you and Steph go at it at All-Star Weekend. How great was that? And I read an article you did after it where you were saying, we both wanted the same thing, and that's equality. What do you think that moment showed about competition in basketball?
Yeah, I mean, it was everything. Talking to him before, obviously there were a million reasons why we shouldn't have gone and done that. And I think a lot of that comes from, I could have been scared. I could have had fear of if I went out there and failed, what that would have shown the young girl that was watching TV in hopes of wanting to kind of break down her own barriers of what she was wanting to accomplish. And I think being able to see both of us kind of push that fear aside, and we weren't scared to fail. And I think when we went up, on there, and we, like I think I said, if shooters just shoot. If you can shoot, you can shoot. We went up there and we shot and kind of proved to the world that it doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like, what league you're playing in. If you have a talent and you want to work really hard, you can go out and accomplish whatever that is that you want to go out and do.
Are we working on seeing that again?
Maybe.
Do we want to see it again? Adam, as the NBA continues to grow, how do you keep its core values intact?
First, let me just say, as Sabrina knows, both my daughters are wearing Sabrina 2s. So the second, is it not retail yet, right? So it's a great shoe. Not just NBA players are wearing it. And there's got to be a rematch in San Francisco next year.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if there's 2 rounds, who knows what would happen?
It may need another round, but we'll work on that. And my question was?
Are you joining the three-point contest?
Yeah, you want to join us?
No. I'm a suit, as they call it. Yeah.
No, your question was, as the NBA keeps growing, how do you keep its core values intact?
It's a very fair question because it's a business at the same time, and it's a growing business, and it's one where there are many thousands of lives dependent on us continuing to grow this business and creating new leagues and new opportunities. And so I don't think there's any secret sauce. I think part of it is you have to always be thinking about what the values are of this league, what I've inherited that have, again, back to Kareem's, that, by the way, many people in this room probably don't know this, but Kareem chose not to play in the Olympics. This was only amateurs back then in 1968. You should speak to this, but he chose to boycott the Olympics then for a principled reason. And I think I think it's one that this league is, these multiple leagues are based on the values that our players bring to bear, their ability to speak out directly on issues that are important to them. At the same time, it's my job to put certain guardrails on the league so that at the end of the day, we're still presenting the best possible product to our fans, and that while players have the freedom to speak out on issues that are important to them, we're not trying to create a political movement at the same time. I think that finding sort of that separation between we want to be the best basketball leagues in the world, but also true to our values. And I think that our players do such a tremendous job, former and current players, sort of recognizing that we're able to attract the kind of attention that we do, whether it's Kareem to this day speaking out on important issues, or Sabrina, because they're great basketball players, first and foremost, and that we're putting on a product that people want to see. Once you established yourself on the floor, I think it gives you liberty to then talk about other issues that are important to you. And I think it's the same for us as a business. I mean, Sabrina mentioned the bubble when she first started. We had 2 bubbles. We had the WNBA bubble and we had the NBA bubble. You were with me at the NBA bubble down in Orlando. And as you'll recall, in retrospect, it all worked out pretty well. But this was pre-availability of vaccinations, it wasn't clear that what we were all doing what made sense, whether we could keep all our players healthy. And then George Floyd was killed. And I think for the NBA and the WNBA players, there was a real question of whether this was the right thing to do with all this turmoil in our country at the time. And we ultimately all collectively decided to go forward. But it wasn't an obvious decision because there were commercial implications of keeping the league going and keeping players paid. And at the same time, there was what's the right thing consistent with the values of our league. But I'll say just lastly to that, these decisions, most of them are not clear cut. You do the best you can in that moment, and you then live with the results. But I'm the first to say, I don't look back on those decisions and say, I was right and the people who said we shouldn't do it were wrong. I think part of being a leader is being a good listener. And listening what people's genuine concerns are. They may not always agree with you, and I don't think it's always necessarily my job to convince people to agree with me. More my job is to make sure people understand our rationale and our reasoning for why we do what we do. At least then we're transparent and people know where we stand.
And, Adam, as you talk about knowing where you stand, you mentioned the Olympic boycott that Kareem participated in. I would love to hear much more about that and why that was important and the emotions that you felt when you decided to take that stand.
Well, when you take a stand like that, you have to understand what's important and what's not important. And I was very lucky. I was only 20 years old, and I was invited by people I had a lot of respect for. Bill Russell called me and said, why don't you come up to Cleveland? We got a few things to talk about. And I immediately went up there. I mean, these are the people that I had so much respect for. Bill Russell, Muhammad Ali, people like that. I had to listen. And I've been listening ever since, and trying to do the right thing, because that's what they tried to do. They sacrificed their reputations, a lot of money, and acceptance by the population in general, just to make sure that they were doing the right thing. And with examples like that, we know which way to go.
Definitely. I mean, you all clearly have been able to learn from some very influential people, as he mentions Muhammad Ali and Bill Russell. Tell me the best piece of advice that you have ever received from someone when it comes to using your voice. I'll start with you, Adam.
Boy, I would say I've gotten so much good advice over the years. I've been very fortunate, been around a lot of great leaders. One who comes to mind, Kareem mentioned Bill Russell, who we were both very close to. And I'd say it goes more to, I don't remember the precise words he used, but I would call it respectful listening. Because you can nod your head and listen to somebody and just wait till they finish talking and then just go back to saying what you're going to say or thinking what you do. But I think I learned through a lot of time around Bill when he was in an ambassador role to the league and traveling with him a lot when I was a young employee at the league, that he was a very active listener. And I think, again, even if people disagreed with him, I think they had the real sense that he was incorporating their thoughts, truly listening to them. And he was also willing to change his mind if somebody could convince him otherwise. So I think that single piece of advice is just to be a good listener.
And I also think that ability to be malleable, right, and take in new information and maybe learn something different or at least see a different perspective is really the key to being influential as well. Sabrina, what about you? Best piece of advice you've received?
I think mine would be stay true to yourself, especially I think in today's day and age where social media is as powerful as it is, and I think you can kind of get caught up in what everyone's saying. And I think at the end of the day, what I've been kind of told for many mentors is just stay true to yourself and whatever that is, whether it's, what everyone else believes or not. I think it's being able to just kind of trust you're being a good person and being who you are to your core, and then, everything else kind of follows that.
How much pride do you take in the fact that the W has truly always been at the forefront of using their voice, advocating for social change, and just being able to be a part of that league?
Yeah, well, I think Adam kind of touched on it, but I feel like it's all I've known, because from when I came into this league in 2020, that's what we started that right then and there. That was my welcome to the league moment, was when so much stuff was happening in our country, and I think being able to kind of see, it gave me a new appreciation, because you don't really know what happens behind the scenes and how many people are fighting to try and do the right thing and to create change through the power of sport, and being able to kind of be in the room with so many women that really wanted to be at the forefront and not really care what the world had to say, but wanted to be the people to create that change, was something that I was just blessed to be a part of, and it's kind of been all I've known now, and so I'm blessed to kind of be able to pass that on and be a voice in that room.
Definitely. On that note, can you each share a story of a time that you saw basketball create a positive change in the community? And I'll start with you, Adam.
Basketball positive change.
If you don't have one, I think Kareem was ready. You have an answer?
Let Kareem
He's
start.
like, I've got
He's
it.
always ready.
Come on, Kareem.
Kareem should start.
Well, I can talk about the time I went to Israel for Adidas to do basketball clinics and teach the game. And a lot of enthusiasm from the kids. But there was also a lot of division, between who you are and what your ethnicity is. But once you throw the ball up in the air, all that disappears, and the game takes over, and people are able to accept each other through competition. And that's a very important thing. And I saw it happening there, where the kids, they weren't Israeli or Palestinian, they were hoopsters. And that was what it was all about. And I think a few barriers fell at that point.
It's a great answer, great story, for sure. Sabrina, do you have a time?
I would say, I think just, I feel like there's so many times that I've been able to see it, but particularly I think, at my basketball camps that I've been able to have in so many cities and just create, access to sport for the younger generation. I was in middle school and there wasn't a girls team, and to be able to kind of see how far we've come now in terms of, my foundation is kind of having so many camps every single off season here in New York, back in the Bay Area, in Oregon, and just being able to see how, a lot of these young girls and young boys' eyes just light up at the thought of wanting to be a basketball player, and knowing that I kind of have a small part in that, I think really just gets me going and kind of gives me purpose in what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think along the lines of both of their examples, which have to do with basketballs in the hands of kids, like that direct connection. I think the league started many years ago a program called Basketball Without Borders. It established initially in various cities in Africa, but has become more global. And I think at the ones I attended many years ago in Johannesburg, you had talented, and initially, frankly, the programs were just boys, but then they became boys and girls, teen age, right below, younger than college age, and it was bringing together great talent from around the continent, all to come together in the summer with NBA players and coaches and legends coming and wanting to be part and to contribute as well. And just to see these disparate kids all come together, meeting for the first time from very different backgrounds, and just that through that common love of the game and the appreciation of these people who were there who wanted to teach them and learn with them, that was truly moving for me.
Adam, in your leadership role, it's clear that you are deeply thoughtful, always. And I'm curious, when you're a leader, how much of it is about adapting to change and how much of it is about creating it?
Well, it's a fascinating question, because I think part of, as I get older, I become more aware of how little we actually control around us. I think it's sort of coming to terms with life is there's a small category of things that you seemingly have direct control over, but a much larger category of things that you have virtually no control. And life becomes about how you respond to those things that you don't have control over. And I think a lot of leaders have this false impression that they're truly in front of the pack and have this absolute ability to lead, and then the only question is whether people will follow them. I'm sort of somewhere in the middle where, yes, there are decisions that I make as the commissioner of the NBA, but at the same time, I'm aware that societal forces, things that are happening around us, pandemics, social injustice, whatever is happening, is much bigger than this league. And I think to your question, that I think part of the trick is, on one hand, being true to your North Star, sort of what Kareem was saying about decisions he made around the Olympics or otherwise in his life, but at the same time, recognizing that you have to adapt to the world around you and navigate your way through it, lead where you can, but at the same time, just be cognizant that there's these greater forces that are moving you along at the same time. And so if that translates into being thoughtful, okay. But I think it's more just an acceptance that leadership isn't just about thinking that, all right, this is exactly what I want to happen, and now I'm going to execute on it. It's working with people, listening to people, sort of working within the realm of what's possible, bringing people along, etc.
Definitely.
When you talk about control, I immediately thought of my granddaughters. Trying to control them, it doesn't work. I have some people that have the common experience, right?
I said you learn a lot more as you get older, and he's still learning, right?
Yep.
For both Kareem and Sabrina, what is it about playing basketball that creates good leaders? I'll start with you, Kareem.
I think good leaders have a good place in their heart for everybody who wants to play the game. You know, because not everybody can play the game, you know, but giving everybody a chance to play the game, having it be inclusive, and even, you know, with the kids that don't have much talent, you know, give them a chance to play. I think that's essential, you know, that's what it should be about, inclusiveness. And you never know who's going to pop out of there, you know? Bill Bradley or somebody like that.
Sabrina.
I think obviously it being a team sport and having to understand no one's the exact same on a team, but every role and every person is just as important. I think that as a leader, in turn, just kind of helps you be able to relate to one another, be able to understand and figure out ways that you can help and understand, you know, help them understand their greatest potential as well, and continuing to try and find pieces of the puzzle and how they're working. I think that's kind of the fun part about being a leader as well. But obviously being a part of a team sport, there's really nothing like it, just that camaraderie and all the life lessons that it teaches you outside of basketball.
So as we start to wrap a little bit, I would love to hear what exciting changes you all hope to see in the game in the next 5-10 years. I'm going to start with you here, Adam. What's up your sleeve over there?
You know, I just want to add one thing to what they said in response to the last question, just because, you know, unlike, you know, Kareem, who one of the greatest NBA players ever, Sabrina on track to be one of the greatest WNBA players ever, that to hear them talk about inclusiveness of a team, of the acceptance for people playing with them regardless of their level of talent, I think it's a great message for kids, frankly, or for parents who want their kids to participate in sports. And I remember I once had this conversation with your dad, actually, at a Liberty game. I was talking about my daughter, and I went up to your dad and said, Mr. Ionescu, I said, what's the secret? And my daughter was like 4 at the time, and your dad, honest to God, he grabbed my daughter's skinny little arms, and he said, it's not this. And he goes, and he puts his hand on her heart, and he goes, it's this. You know, it's what's inside you. And my daughter was just like, you know, like, but I you know, just the same way we're always learning. I think that one thing I've learned all my years at the NBA now is the importance of team sports, of kids participating, of being physically active. And I think I know this for a fact because I know in my own case, I was a very average athlete, and I was intimidated by the best out there because I thought, well, they don't want me to be out on the court with them because they're the best, so they're only interested. And you hear directly from, by the way, both #1 picks in their leagues, you hear directly from them that
The best of the best.
How accepting they are of others who are participating. And I just think it's such an important message that regardless of your level of skill, it's all within you. It's not about being judged by, and by the way, they're great. They don't they're not judging people poorly because they're not as good as they are. They're just so happy they're playing the game. So I just thought it was important to add that. In terms of quickly respond to your direct question was changes.
Before you answer,
Yeah.
I'm curious, did you know that story?
No, but the shoe fits. Yeah. Yeah.
How has that mantra guided you, though? Because I'm sure growing up, he was telling you different variations of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly what Adam said. It's not about the stat sheet and the points you score and how high you jump, and it's really about, are you putting your best foot forward and are you giving it your all? And if you are, then you're a champion. And that's really what it is. That's kind of been my mentality through it all, through the highs and lows of playing the game, through life, whatever it is. As long as you're giving it your best effort and you're believing in yourself, like, anything is possible.
Beautiful story. I love that. I'm going to just start tapping people right here. It's in here. But yes, exciting changes. What do you want to see?
I just say, I'll be quick on that. Like, I think so much of it is changes through technology. That's sort of where we started. I mean, now as sports are moving to streaming services, it's not just putting aside getting sports on your phone, other ways you can do things that previously you couldn't. It just enables so many new bells and whistles that you can't do through traditional television. And if you're watching Sabrina and as you're watching and you want to learn more about her, or learn precisely what spot on the floor she's shooting better from, and more statistics about what's happening, or what her favorite music is, or whatever else. Ultimately, sports is about storytelling, and I think that the deeper people can become involved, because there's a segment of fans who care a lot about X's and O's and hardcore basketball, but there's a much larger segment who are brought to the game through stories. It's why the Olympic ratings, by the way, for men's and women's basketball were off the charts. I think because the stories these teams were telling, the coming together of these players, the global platform they were playing on. So I think all that technology, what it does is it better enables the league and our broadcasters to tell stories around the players, and especially with players from, as we're talking about, from all over the world. It's not just, oh, here's a player from Spain. No, this player is from Barcelona, and this is where this player went to school, and this is what this player's father or mother told them or coach told them.
Technology really will make the game endless, for sure. What about you, Sabrina? What exciting changes are you looking forward
Well,
to?
I can't wait for fans to tell me where to shoot from.
I'm not saying they're going to tell you. They'll just know data.
I'll hear it from somewhere. I would say, I think just the expansion teams. The W obviously is...
Yeah.
I think we're not even scratching the surface of where we're going, and that's really the exciting part, to be able to be a part of that. But for me, it would have to be the expansion teams that are coming to the W, knowing we're going to be able to play in those communities and inspire, but also just provide great basketball, and knowing that there's going to be so many fans. Obviously, here in New York, we get 17,000, which is absolutely amazing, but knowing that's going to continue to spread through all the other teams as well.
She's like, more teams to beat.
Right.
Kareem, what changes are you excited about?
Well, in the next 10 years, I hope I'm still alive, so I can see the changes that occur in the game. Basketball is a game that evolves. The three-point shot, they widen the lane, and they try to make it more competitive and more appealing. So I don't think that's going to stop. So I hope I'm around to see what they come up with.
Definitely. I love it. Well, no, give it up for that. Give it up for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I hope that you all leave here today feeling empowered to use your voice, inspired, and looking for change. I appreciate you all for being here, and please, one more time for our esteemed panelists. And one more time for that gold medal.